Hello, and season's greetings to you all. My name is John Christian, and this is Tell Me About Your Book, the Christmas special. Today, I have three guests. My first one is Aurelio O'Brien. He has written a book called Family Trees, a truly heartwarming tale. My second guest is Kevin Coolidge. He has written two books, one on Christmas and one about Boxing Day, but a little bit different than what you would expect. And finally, my third guest is Gary Randolph. He has a story to tell that, well, only he can tell. So stay tuned. Well, hi, Aurelio. You look rather festive.
Well, Merry Christmas. How are you?
Merry Christmas to you. I'm doing fine. It's going to be very nice tonight. We're having a nice dinner. How about you?
I'm into the season. You know, I got the hat. I actually have a more dapper one here. That I can wear when I really want to style out. If the day doesn't go well, I do have a third hat here that kind of fit my mood. If
Well, excellent.
those relatives show up you really don't want to see, or things
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly. You're ready. You're ready, I can
that. I'm
tell.
all set.
Well, about the book that you've written about Christmas, I know nothing about it, so you'll have to tell me. What is it about?
Well, it's interesting. Everybody. I assume everybody, if they're like me, you know, pull out the old Christmas stories that they've now made movies of. Things like A Christmas Story or Home Alone or It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street. And it suddenly dawned on me that I actually lived a sort of one of those stories, and it might make a nice novel. And so I novelized it. It's called Family Trees, and it's kind of based on a period of time when it was right after my mother died and my father had not remarried. And we were a family of six kids. So it was six of us kind of left on our own to, fend for ourselves, kind of raise ourselves. What they used to call latchkey kids, I guess. And and so the story is kind of about a family kind of trying to find itself again. My mother was really the heart of the family, and my father was pretty much the stereotypical absent father. He was at work all day and hadn't really been that personally involved with each of us kids otherwise. And then all of a sudden he's thrust into being kind of both parents at the same time. So he really dumped it onto my oldest sister, and so she became kind of the surrogate mother, except her brothers made it very clear to her she might have all the responsibility, but she had none of the authority. So anyway, I kind of wrapped it in a Christmas context because Christmas is so much about family, and worked it out into a kind of a legendary tale of a family's Christmas. It's very heartwarming. It's funny, kind of snarky. A lot of the incidents in it, believe it or not, are absolutely true, even though they're pretty extreme. We were probably not the smartest family, but we dealt with kind of big problems in a kid way, I guess.
Hmm. So that was an emotional thing for you to write, I bet.
It was kind of cathartic, and though the memories are mostly happy. I mean, it was really kind of tragic losing our mother, but she instilled so much of herself into us, and the book is kind of about that as well, because each of us carried gifts that she had given us that, in combination with each other, she was kind of still there with us, which was interesting for me to sort out. So it is a very heartwarming story. And also, well, it's funny because with my mother, like one of my aunts was telling me that my mother they always said about her, well, she's the only woman they've ever known who had six only children because she spoiled each of us so much and was so personally involved with each of us. So, yeah, was why it was kind of devastating when we lost her. But we did turn to each other too. I mean, we're a very close family, so And I think that whole situation brought us closer.
What does your rest of your family think about this book? Have they read it?
Well, it's funny because it is fiction. I fictionalized it quite a bit and gave it more of a narrative because a lot of these things were individual incidences, and I strung them together and kind of wove them into a more or less a legendary story.
Sure, but they knew what you were going after, right?
Yeah, they knew what I was going for, but they were like, that's not what happened. Kind of thing. I was getting some of that, but
yeah.
But mostly, I think they really enjoyed it because some of them had forgotten different things that I had remembered, and so they went, "Oh yeah, that's right, that happened." But it is a lot of fun. It's mostly fun and heartwarming. And what I'm really kind of hoping for, and what I was kind of after with the book, was to create one of those tales, like It's a Wonderful Life, where you bring it out every holiday season and maybe reread it and things like that.
Yeah. Would it make people laugh and cry and all that?
Yes, I think so. And for me, when I was writing it, especially the ending, I'm really happy with the ending. And it sort of came together as I was writing it. And I did shed some tears at the end. One of those kind of sad, happy endings.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Well, when we write, we get very close to our characters, don't we?
Yes, we do. Well, in this one, because I know my family, I mean, all the names were changed to protect the guilty, so it's like everybody's safe. No one's gonna get in trouble for things they did, like 50 years ago or whatever.
So I guess it can be read to a child. It's a safe book, I suppose, with language.
Yes, it is safe. It is safe to read to children. I think it's written for adults. It's more of a reminiscent kind of book. It's like a Christmas Story. When you watch it as an adult, it's more of a nostalgic experience. And the book is kind of written from that kind of perspective, but I think kids would enjoy it. There's a lot of things that take place that they'll relate to and things like that. But I hope it helps everyone to have a very Merry Christmas. Well, and if lots of people buy it, I can wear one of my more happy hats, that for Christmas this year, rather than my bah humbug.
That's a tall hat you got there.
Yes, this is my Dr. Seuss.
That's right.
That's Dr. Seuss hat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is. That's
doesn't fit in the screen. It's so tall.
Yeah. Great. Well, Aurelio, this has been fun, and just going to move on to another author who's also written a book about Christmas.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas to you and to
Merry
my
Christmas
fellow authors, and a Happy New Year.
Take care. And my next guest is Kevin Coolidge. Merry Christmas, Kevin.
Merry Catmas, John.
Catmas, wow. So you've written 2 books about Christmas. Tell us all about that.
Well, I have. My first book that I wrote about Christmas is The Totally Ninja Raccoons and the Catmas Caper. Have you heard about the Totally Ninja Raccoons?
Can't say as I have. You'll have to tell me all about it.
They're about 3 raccoon brothers who decide to become ninjas because they already have the mask.
Okay. And so how does that work into Christmas?
Well, how that works into Christmas, so this is the super special Christmas edition of the Totally Ninja Raccoons.
I see. So is there a series of these books that you've written?
It is. So the Totally Ninja Raccoons is a series. The Totally Ninja Raccoons and the Catmas Caper is the 5th book in the series, and it's for the Cat Board. Have you heard about the Cat Board?
Nope, haven't.
It's a super secret organization, so I'm not surprised. You see, cats want to take over the world, and it's up to the Ninja Raccoons to keep that from happening. So in the Totally Ninja Raccoons and the Catmas Caper, what happens is the Cat Board wants to rebrand Christmas and call it Catmas, and everybody gets an empty box and a kitten. But it's up to the Totally Ninja Raccoons to rescue Santa Claus and save Christmas.
I see. So the cats don't like Santa Claus?
Well, it's not that they don't like Santa Claus. It's just that he's in the way of world domination. So they want to actually use Santa Claus's distribution to take over the world. So they're going to rebrand Christmas, call it Catmas, and everybody will get an empty box because cats love boxes and a kitten. So it's a way to spread kittens across the world and to further embed themselves into the world domination plan.
I have to say, I did suspect a lot of that going on, but you somehow keyed into it and wrote a book about this.
I wrote a book about it. I'm keyed into it because I happen to know so much about it because it's my cat at home who is the head of the cat board. She's the founding member, but the cat board is a very international organization.
Okay. Now these cats obviously are doing what they're doing around Christmas time. Are there any other holidays that they're trying to subvert?
Yes. So, of course, what's a cat's favorite holiday?
I don't know.
Boxing Day, of course.
So
kind of
boxes. Right. I got it. Boxes. Right. Yeah.
Boxing Day.
Mm-hmm.
So the cat board is the main adversary of the Totally Ninja Raccoons, and they appear in most of the books. But the cat board and the cardboard caper is the first book in the series, and it takes place on Boxing Day. So the Ninja Raccoons do end up saving Christmas, but the cat board never gives up. So in this book, now cats love boxes. Boxes are very important to world commerce, right? So you control the flow of cardboard and you control the world, or at least that's what the cat board thinks. So the cat board decides to take over a box factory on Boxing Day, and thus chaos ensues.
Of course it does. So do cats like Boxing Day besides for boxes? Like, there's sales to be had. They have Boxing Week, Boxing Month sometimes. Does that play into it at all?
Nope, they just like boxes. Now, most of these cats are American cats. So Boxing Day is very big in the UK, Canada, Australia.
Yeah.
It's just a day in the calendar, pretty much in America. So most of the cats in this are American cats. Like I do have a Scottish fold in one of the books, and in this book, there's a Japanese bobtail who's brought in as a consultant because, of course, the Japanese are very good at origami.
Right. Okay. Well, going back to your first book, I'm curious, how long is it?
It's about 46 pages. Now, these books are for children, and the Totally Ninja Raccoons are actually designed for reluctant readers. Because in addition to writing books, I'm a bookseller. It is for children. Age range is about 7 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote them specifically for reluctant readers, meaning not. And a reluctant reader, for your listeners that don't know, they are not necessarily bad at reading, but they're reluctant. They don't like to read. So these books they're a little silly. They're fun. That was the whole idea behind them, was to put the fun back into reading so that a child will enjoy it. And they're short chapters. Each chapter starts with an illustration. So it's to draw the child in, have them fun, and continue reading. And then at the end, like for example, in the cardboard caper, Boxing Day isn't a big holiday in the United States. But at the end of the book, I put a little bit about Boxing Day, to pique the interest of a child so they can read up about it and read more about it and learn about holidays from other nations, to be curious and to stay curious.
Great. You mentioned illustrations. Do you do that yourself, or you farm that out?
A friend of mine does the illustrations.
How is it being received? Have you sold some copies and people told you what they thought?
Yeah, in fact, now I've been writing the Totally Ninja Raccoon since 2016. I don't have the exact number, but since 2016, over the past 5 to 7 years, I've sold about 50,000 of them.
Very impressive. I guess that makes you happy that people are enjoying what you're doing.
It is, and that's one of the nice things about, I go to small festivals. I have a bookstore where I sell them out of, and a lot of times, as you know, writing can be a very solitary profession. But one of the nice things about this is I get to interact, I think, a little bit more than some of my fellow writers, and to see that they're doing what they're meant to do, which is getting children to read. I've had several success stories in which, like I had a success story this summer where a young boy, he started reading my books and he has dyslexia. So it's not like he didn't want to read, it was just more of a challenge. But these books tend to be very popular with people who have ADHD or dyslexia. And he read the first book he ever finished on his own volition was one of my books.
Excellent.
And then he read them all. That's great. But what's even better is that he started a GoFundMe so that he could put those books into other children's hands.
Wonderful. Are you affiliated in any way with educational institutions where your books are then used in libraries and schools and such?
I'm getting them out there. So I have some of the schools have them, like the Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which is where the boy is from. You know, they purchased several sets, and I've done school visits. And of course, now that the world is opening back up, I'm getting back out there in schools to go to schools and talk about it and make kind of show like some behind the scenes. So now I do a talk about the Ninja Raccoons, but also some of the basic concepts of writing, and from anything from the beginning artwork, the concept art, to how I get my ideas, and to show that I'm just a guy that writes. So because sometimes children, I actually have a fun story. I was at an event and I was there as a bookstore with my wife, and we had several books. But since I was there, I also had several of the Totally Ninja Raccoons. And a mom pointed to the books and said, "Oh, there's Kevin Coolidge. You all said he was your favorite author." And she was pointing at the books. So the young boy comes up and he's talking to me about the Ninja Raccoons, and I'm talking to him, and he goes, "Boy, you should know a lot about the Ninja Raccoons." And I'm like, "Well, sure, I should. I wrote them." And then he got all shy because, and it's like, "No, this is just what I do." Just like a mechanic might change your oil, or you go to the doctor. It's just what I do. And it's just people doing what they do. So.
Well, Kevin, you seem to have a very big heart, and being that it's Christmas, that's a really good feeling.
It is. I'm looking forward to Christmas.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. One last thing. All
right.
Where can people buy these books?
You can go right to my website, kevincoolidge.org.
And I'll put that link below.
Okay.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Kevin.
Thanks, John.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
And my next guest is Gary Randolph. Merry Christmas, Gary.
Hi, Merry Christmas to you, John.
Nice to see you. So I understand you've written a Christmas story. That's about all I know about it. So tell us all about that.
Well, the genesis of this story goes back actually a few decades. I was trying to get into writing, and I saw an advertisement for a story writing contest for a children's magazine. And the story in my head that I had was of a family decorating a Christmas tree, and how ornaments had been passed down through the generations. And this particular ornament was a paper star made out of a letter written from a grandfather who was off in his younger days serving in World War II, back home to his sweetheart, who later became the grandmother in this story. And it was a star, but because it had been a letter in the war, there were all kinds of things already crossed out and cut out by the censors. And the grandmother had the idea to just make these cutouts into a Christmas star. And so I submitted this kind of a saccharine but nice Christmas tradition story, and I was lucky enough to win the contest. And then the story about the story is that, as I said, this was when I was trying to get into writing. I had sold a business, and for some reason, I was having a hard time finding another job. There was a feeling by some of the people who I interviewed with that if I had once owned a business, that I would surely leave them in a couple of years and start another business. And nothing could have been further from the truth. I was done having employees and done doing that sort of thing. But I received the postcard notifying me that I had won on a day when I was wondering if what I was going to do in life from here on. And so it was a very encouraging time to me. And so the story has a lot of emotion in it, and my story about winning the prize for that is an emotional time for me too.
That must have felt really good hearing that you won the award your first time out writing a Christmas story.
Yeah, it was very, very affirming.
Very nice. Yeah. So in this story, the grandmother and the grandfather are then the parents of the child that's experiencing this in the story. Do I understand that correctly?
It's a kind of a 3-generation story that the grandmother and grandfather have both passed on, and now it's the parents, the children of them, passing on this ornament to children, to another generation.
Right.
And we have our Christmas traditions, whether it's recipes or ornaments or the things that we do that are passed on from grandparents to parents to children.
Yeah. I have some ornaments from my childhood, and I still have them in a little box. And when I see them, it just brings back all great memories. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, this story is not available in book form, unfortunately.
Not at this time.
No.
I am a writer and a storyteller. I do some gigs with telling stories, often of Ireland and Scotland, and sing songs and recite poems and things like that. And I have one book of Irish and Scottish stories out. I've recently done a storytelling gig about growing up on a farm in Indiana, and some of the stories of my life. And so I've been thinking about collating some of those stories into a book, and this Christmas ornament story would fit with that. It's fictitious, but it's set in say the late 1980s, and would kind of fit in with the whole idea of nostalgia.
Okay, sounds great. You mentioned you play guitar and you tell stories with your guitar, and you tell stories or you sing stories. How does that work out, and where do you do that?
I've told stories, done storytelling gigs at various organizations when they're maybe having a party and want some entertainment. I've gone to schools, I've gone to assisted living facilities, and this year I was fortunate enough to be asked to come to the Indianapolis Irish Fest.
Okay. And have you done your Christmas story in that manner to children?
I have read that before some groups, yes. Mm-hmm.
And how was it received?
It generally makes people cry.
So it has a happy ending, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because it's about just being aware of your heritage, and the sad parts of life, which become cherished memories.
Of course. Well, Gary, it's been really nice talking to you. You seem like a very warm gentleman. And anyone who plays guitar is fine by me.
There you go.
That's right. You have yourself a Merry Christmas, sir.
You too, John. Thank you.
Take care.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And that's our show for today. If you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell for future notifications. And if you are a self-published author, I would really like to talk with you. Until then, keep writing and be kind to one another. And most of all, have a Merry Christmas.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!